Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Let's wait for other people to join. We'll start in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Are there any more who are going to join? Rishikesh?
Maybe they are joining.
Maybe they'll
We
join.
have only 30.
Yeah, we have only 30 minutes. Should we start with the class?
Yeah, ma'am, I think we should start.
Okay, I want you and Dia to unmute. All others I will mute. If there is a problem with the audio, please let me know.
Okay, okay, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. In the last class, we had learned real-time protocol. Okay. Now, all these protocols that we are learning belong to the transport layer of the TCP/IP reference model. So we basically have two important protocols in the transport layer. One is TCP and the other one is UDP. Now, UDP we have already learned. We know what is UDP, User Datagram Protocol. For any application that does not require a connection to be set up, the UDP is used. But there are a lot of applications where a connection needs to be set up. So for such applications, the protocol that will be most useful is TCP, that is Transmission Control Protocol. Okay. Now we will learn a few basic things about the TCP first, and then we will try to understand it in detail. Okay. There are certain points that you have to remember, which are the features of TCP protocol. The first is that TCP is a connection-oriented protocol. Now we all know what is meant by connection-oriented. Basically, in a connection-oriented protocol, between the sender and the receiver, a dedicated connection is set up. Only after the connection is complete, the data transfer will happen. So TCP is one such protocol which first sets up a connection with the receiver. Once the connection, dedicated exclusive connection is available, then only data transmission will take place. Now, why is it that TCP has been designed? You must understand the internet environment. In the internet environment, now I want you all to visualize that we have a sender, in between we have a subnet, and then we have a receiver. Now, subnet or the in-between network is very unreliable, isn't it? So if it is unreliable, we wish that there should be reliable byte stream. All right. That is, even if the internet network is unreliable, we want certain process to ensure reliability. So one such process, one such protocol, which was designed to provide reliable end-to-end stream of bytes is TCP. So even if in between the IP is there, in between the subnet is there, subnet can be very unreliable. Routers can crash, the transmission lines can crash, or maybe some data might get lost. Some data may never reach the destination. Even if all that is true, we want certain processes to ensure reliability, and that is ensured in the internet with the help of TCP. Now, usually TCP, the protocol works with the help of what we call as a transport entity. TCP is a part of the transport protocol or the transport layer. So there is something called as the transport entity, which if you want, you can think of it as a library procedure or a subroutine or a built-in procedure. This TCP can be in the form of a user process. It can be built into the operating system kernel. That is, it can be a part of the operating system itself. So in whichever form it is present, TCP is basically used for reliable byte stream. So even if it is a library procedure, or if it is in the form of a user process, it will see to it that all the bytes will reach the destination reliably. Okay. Now, I want Rishikesh and Dia to unmute and tell me if I'm audible correctly.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
No issues.
There's no problem with the audio, right?
No.
Okay, we'll continue.
No, ma'am.
We'll continue. Now, the important thing, now you can have a look at this diagram, which is on the right-hand side, which I have drawn here. Okay. Usually what happens, the application process, that is any application, any app for that matter, will create data packets, and then it will be transmitted to the layer below it. From the application layer, it will come into the transport layer. So in the transport layer, the TCP entity is present. It is going to create segments. When we talk about transport layer, we don't call them as packets, rather we call them as segments. So every segment of data can be maximum up to 64 KB. So your header plus the actual data can be up to 64 KB. That is the maximum length of the TCP segment. So that TCP segment is created and it comes down. Now it is not shown in the diagram. From the transport layer, it comes to the internet layer. It is handed over to IP. Then from IP to the physical layer, then you can see the segments are being transmitted. Okay. It reaches the receiver over the physical layer, then over to the IP, and then it is given to the TCP. TCP then hands it over to the application process. So you all can see in this diagram, it is clearly shown how the TCP entities interact with each other virtually. Actually, from layer to layer, from one layer downwards, then physical layer, then again transport layer and application layer. So you feel that TCP on one machine interacts directly with TCP on another machine. That is not the case. That is called as virtual communication. And actual communication, you can have a look at these arrows. Can you see the arrows? From the application process to the transport layer, two layers are not shown there. Over the physical layer, onto the transport layer, and back to the application layer. Okay? Now, the TCP service model we have to understand, means how TCP works. What are the bases that allow TCP to become so reliable? Now we have learned in the lab also that TCP service is ensured with the help of what we call as endpoints. Okay, there is an endpoint at the sender and there is also an endpoint at the receiver. Those endpoints are called as what? They are called as sockets. We have learned about sockets. What is a socket? Basically, a socket is a combination of the IP address and the port number. Okay, so IP address will uniquely identify the machine and port number will uniquely identify the application with which we want to interact. Because on one machine, there can be many applications. So how am I going to differentiate between those applications with the help of port number? This I've already told you. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, this basics we have learned in the lab also. In fact, we tried to do, transmit and receive data with the help of sockets. So TCP working is done with the help of sockets, and socket is a combination of IP address and the port number. Now this port number or the port in TCP, okay, in TCP we call it as port, but in general it is called as TSAP, Transport Service Access Point. So in general, it can be any transport protocol. We call it as TSAP, that is Transport Service Access Point. But for in TCP, in internet, instead of calling it as TSAP, we call it as port. So both port and TSAP mean the same thing. Now in the internet environment, there are certain ports which are called as standard ports. And the standard ports are given numbers below 1024. They are already there. You cannot change them. They have some standard applications. They have some standard functions to be performed. Now, can you see this diagram? Everybody, you have a client machine and you have a server machine. Then you have the IP address of the client and the IP address of the server. Now, on the client side, there is port number 5000, and on the server side, there is port number 80. So with the help of, and again, at the both of them are going to interact by creating this port, that is port number 25. Now, uniquely, I'll be able to identify them with the help of the IP address and the port number. So port number 25 on one machine will interact with the port number 25 on another machine. Okay. Now have a look at this. Just now I was telling you there are certain ports which are predefined in the internet environment, and those port numbers are having values below 1024. So some of them are shown in this table. All of you can see.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to see this table? Now in this table, it is clearly mentioned the port number, what protocol it supports, and for what it is used. So can you see port number 21? It is commonly used for FTP, that is for file transfer. Like that port number 23 is there, which is used for Telnet. Telnet means remote login. You want to log into a remote machine, then Telnet is one such application. Okay. For email, SMTP is used and the port number is 25. Can you see that all the port numbers that you have here, they are below 1024? The values of the port numbers are below 1024. So such ports are called as standard ports. Okay. Everybody is clear with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Moreover, in the lab, the programs that we did, we gave 4-digit port number. We gave them above 1024. Isn't it? We gave something like 5000 and 6000 or something like that. 8888. Now all these are numbers above 1024. So remember to, when you are creating your processes, you can give other port numbers other than 1024. Okay. Now all the TCP ports that are there, you will remember two things about it. Firstly, all TCP ports are full duplex. Full duplex means what? The data transfer can happen in both the directions. Okay? And point to point because at the sender side, a endpoint is created, which is called a socket. And also at the receiver side, a endpoint is created, which is called a socket. Both the sockets at either side will help you to interact, and hence it is called as point to point. Is this slide clear?
Yes.
Everybody is sure about this now? What are ports and what are their features? Okay. So now we will move further. Okay. Now what will you remember about TCP? First important thing about TCP is that TCP is a connection oriented protocol, and also TCP is not is a byte stream and not a message stream. It is a byte stream means while sending the data, a group of bytes are put together to form a segment. Now, I told you maximum segment length can be up to 64 KB. Okay, actually it is 65535 bytes. So while sending the data, the TCP protocol can, if it wants, it can divide the data into separate chunks, or it can also put the data together into one. Okay. For example, can you see this diagram? You have four segments now, A, B, C, and D. Each one is a TCP segment. So where it is written A, that is your data part. Every segment will have a TCP header and will also have an IP header. So suppose you have four such blocks or four such chunks of data. Each chunk is of 512 bytes. So you can create, the TCP protocol can create four separate segments or four separate chunks of 512 bytes as is shown in figure A. Or it can also put two 512 bytes together in order to form 1024 bytes one segment, and another 1024 bytes another segment. So now we have four chunks. Two chunks can be put together to form one. Another two chunks can be put together to form one segment. Or if we want, we can also put all of them together. That is, the TCP protocol can put all the segments together as is shown in figure B. In figure B, it is shown that all the four chunks, that is A, B, C, D, are put together, and each one is of 512 bytes. So total data will be of 2048 bytes. So TCP protocol, if you wish, it can transmit the data in four separate chunks, or it can put two chunks together to form one, or all four could be put together to form one. Maximum segment length can be up to 64,535 bytes. Okay. Now,
Yes.
what we have to learn next is the TCP header. Okay. Now, whenever we are trying to transmit our data, when the TCP is working to send a segment of data, usually I told you the maximum length can be up to 64 KB, or it can be exactly up to 65,535 bytes. So this we call it as the MTU, maximum transfer unit. And to every data chunk, a header is attached. We'll go back to the previous slide. Can you see this? Can you see every chunk has got two shaded parts here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, what are those two shaded parts? One is the TCP header and one more is the IP header. So your actual data, to that the TCP header is attached. Again, after that, it is encapsulated inside the IP header. So IP header we have learned before only. Today, what we will understand is what is this? That is TCP header. Okay. Now this TCP segment header, are you able to see the diagram, Dia?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this TCP segment header has got 20 bytes fixed part. How is it 20 bytes? Can you see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? First 5 rows. Everybody is able to see first 5 rows? Let me annotate. Can you see the first 5 rows?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now first 5 rows, each row is of 32 bits. 32 bits means 4 bytes. 4 into 5 will make it how much? 20 bytes. Okay?
Yes.
Everybody's clear? So this particular header has got 20 bytes. Can you see this blue color line that I have drawn? First 5 rows. That is 20 bytes. Then the next row is the optional part. And after that, if you can see this part, this is the data. Okay. So you have 5 rows of 4 bytes each, 20 byte fixed header, another optional part you have, and after that you have data. Now have a look at the header, what all is present. Now the first 32 bits that are there, it includes the source port and the destination port. Okay. Source port and the destination port. So source port is the port number of the source machine and destination port is the port number of the destination machine, the receiver machine. After that, what you have is the sequence number. Okay. Now, what is the sequence number? When the data is being transmitted from the sender to the receiver, many packets will be sent one after another. So each packet will have a sequence number and that is included. It is 32-bit field that is called as sequence number. Then you have the next one, which is called as acknowledgement number. When we send the data, when the receiver receives the data, it will send back acknowledgement, a feedback, whether that data was received correctly or not, and that is specified inside the acknowledgement number. Now, can you all see we have the next 4 bits, which is the TCP header. Can you see the TCP header length? 4 bits are
Yes.
TCP header length. Header length means what? There is a fixed part and an optional part. So fixed part will always be there. But if there is an optional part, how many bytes it is, or whether it is valid or not, that is indicated with the help of this field, which tells what is the total length of the header. 20 plus how many bytes, that is specified in this 4-bit field, which is called as TCP header length. Then you have this gray part. Can you all see? I want you all to have a look at this. Can you see the gray part? Now these 6 bits are unused field. This is unused. Okay. These bits are not valid and they are unused. After that, you have 1 bit 6 fields. URG. Can you all observe? This is the first field. URG. URG, after that ACK, after that PSH, after that RST, SYN and FIN. Each one is a 1-bit field. 1-bit field means you can either set it to 1 or you can set it to 0. Now URG is a field. If it is set to 1, it means that this particular field, that is urgent pointer, this field is valid. So how do we get to know whether the urgent pointer is valid or not? With the help of this 1-bit field, which is called as URG. If it is set to 1, the urgent pointer is valid. Otherwise, if it is set to 0, urgent pointer is invalid. Then you have ACK, which stands for acknowledgement. In a 2-way data transfer, if the acknowledgement number is valid, then this bit will be set to 1. Otherwise, it will be set to 0. Now, sometimes in the internet environment, there could be certain data, certain segments of data which need to be urgently sent. They need not be buffered in the sender as well as the receiver's buffer. So, in that case, the PSH bit, PSH stands for push. Push means it should not be buffered and immediately it should be pushed. Immediately it should be sent to the receiver. So PSH bit is used to tell the receiver not to buffer the data, but to send it to the upper layers immediately. Okay. Then comes the next field, which is called as RST. RST field is used when a connection becomes inactive. To reset that connection, this RST field is used. SYN stands for synchronize. and it is used at the time of connection establishment. Means when the sender is establishing a connection with the receiver, that time SYN bit is set to 1. And when the connection is being released, FIN stands for finish. Finish bit is set to 1. So SYN is used for connection establishment and FIN is used for connection release. Then you have the next 16 bits, which is called as window size. Now this window size field is a 16-bit field. You must remember that TCP makes use of sliding window protocol. Sliding window protocol in which the window size can be defined. How many packets can the sender send to the receiver, that is defined inside the window size. The next field that we have is checksum. To check whether any errors have occurred in the header, this particular field is used, which is called as checksum. Then we have the urgent pointer. Suppose in the data there is some part which has to be urgently sent to the receiver. This pointer will point to this data part where the urgent data is starting. So it is basically the offset or the byte where the urgent data is starting, and that is specified with the help of urgent field. Then you have this optional part. If any extra information needs to be sent to the receiver, that can be included inside the optional part. And then comes the data, which is the actual data that we want to send. So your data plus the header can be up to 64 KB. That is the maximum segment length in the header, in the TCP. Okay. All right. Now I think we are almost done with almost 30 minutes. So if you have any doubts, you unmute yourself and ask. Whatever we learned, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you explain the FIN part again?
Yeah.
FIN.
Yeah, sure. See, TCP is a connection oriented protocol, isn't it? So at the time of connection setup, SYN bit is set to 1. So suppose we are sending a connection request from sender to receiver. SYN bit will be set to 1. And suppose any one of the two parties wants to disconnect, FIN bit will be set to 1. Now I don't have a board here, otherwise I would have tried to show you on the board. You have to imagine two machines and any one of the two wants to disconnect. So at the time of disconnecting, this bit is set to 1, which is called as FIN. Okay. Rishikesh?
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Any more doubts? Does anybody? Yes? Sorry?
RST, ma'am.
RST stands for reset.
RST bit, ma'am.
Yeah, that's what. RST stands for reset. RESET. Reset means what? Suppose a connection has become inactive due to certain conditions in the network. Suppose sender has not sent any data, receiver has not got anything, this connection becomes inactive. To activate the connection, reset. RST button is set, RST bit is set to 1. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good, good. Any more? Okay, so I think we
Ma'am,
have,
PSH.
yeah?
PSH. Third
Sorry.
one.
Sorry, Ganesh, I'm unable to hear you.
PSH after acknowledgement.
After acknowledgement,
PSH.
TCP header length, right?
Ma'am, here.
Here means
Third one.
third one.
After
PSH,
acknowledgement.
okay, PSH, you want push.
Hmm.
PSH stands for
Yes, ma'am.
push. Push. Push means what? Suppose you have certain data segment, which is urgent. Suppose I sent 5 packets, out of which third packet is very urgent. It need not be buffered. It has to be immediately sent to the upper layers. That time this PSH bit is set to 1. So suppose you have data which is not urgent, then PSH will be set to 0. PSH stands for push. Okay, am I clear? Okay, are you still there? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we are almost running out of time. So I want you all to go through, and tomorrow I will take the class again. So if you have any doubts, then let me know. Okay,
Okay.
shall we end this class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.